Greetings, everyone. This is the Swedish America Heritage Online video broadcast. Today, we are very fortunate to be in Karlstad, Sweden. And with me here is none other than the famous author and journalist, if I can call him that, Tommy Hellström. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Just fine, sir.
Good.
Let's get started, if I may. I don't know you very well. I've only met you a few years ago, but you've definitely helped our website out. But how is it that you got started and involved with writing articles about history?
Well, I've been a journalist for most of my life in local, national media, newspapers and magazines. And in 1992, I came to a newspaper leadership seminar at the University of Texas. And that's when I found out about the Swedes in Texas.
Okay, so this was a seminar, or was it a class you went to? Or?
It was a specially designed seminar for Swedish and Norwegian editors.
Okay, very good. So you were surprised that there were Swedes in Texas?
Yeah, back then, I always considered the upper Midwest to be the home of the Swedes. And
sure,
the Swedish immigration to Texas was virtually unknown to me.
Okay, I can understand that. That was sort of like an incidental occurrence, and that the two things met. You were attending a seminar, went all the way to Austin, Texas for that, and then you had this surprise discovery of the Swedes in the area. But what sort of motivated you to start writing about them?
The fact that when I got back to Sweden after that seminar, I searched for books on the Swedes in Texas, and there were very few books in Swedish in Sweden about the Swedes in Texas. So someone should write about it. Why not me?
Sure, good opportunity.
Yep.
So what are the types of Swedish American articles that you've written over the years that really stand out for you? I know you've written a book about farmland immigrants, but maybe you can tell me something about those too.
Well, the first thing I did was writing the book about the people from the province of Värmland who settled in Texas. And while doing that and doing the research for that book, I ran into a lot of people who were not from this province. Since most of the Swedes in Texas are from the province of Småland, I found quite a few that were interesting in that respect as well. Some of them were interested. I got involved, I should say that. While working on the book, I got involved with this institution. Back then it was Emigrantregistret, the Kinship Center, and now it's called the Swedish Migration Center and the Swedish American Center. And they had published a magazine for many years already, and I got involved with that one. And some of the people from Småland were interesting enough to write about in the magazine. Some were even more interesting because they spoke so good Swedish.
Okay.
So we ended up making a video about a few of them, and then it just kept rolling, It's like the curtain never falls. You get new ideas, new suggestions, you meet new people who tell you about this and that, and you find new communities that you never heard about, and that are practically unknown in Sweden and in much of Swedish America too.
Okay. This whole process for you, though, started when, you were in your early 20s, or? Mm-hmm. When did you really start this process of going to the States?
Well, I was in my 40s.
Okay. Still a young kid.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. But I could also say that there's one event from the somewhere back in the 1970s that really caught my interest, and it was this Swedish airline pilot who found family in the U.S. that he had no knowledge about, and they made a documentary on Swedish television about him
Okay.
finding his family in Sunrise, Minnesota. And it kind of I think it was a starting point for quite a few Swedes to become interested in searching family in the United States. And it's been in the back of my head all these years, and it came back to me in the 90s. I actually met this person who has passed away now, but he was also an inspiration in looking into the Swedish communities in America.
What was his name? Do you recall his name?
I know his name, but it just slipped my mind.
Okay,
I'm
well,
going
that's
to tell
okay.
you, it'll
That's
come
okay.
back.
And I know for a fact that you,
He actually he is known in Sweden as the pilot.
the pilot,
He was an airline pilot all his life.
and that was a TV program that was put together for him. That's
Yeah.
pretty neat. Now, you sort of got your start in Texas, but where else have you been in the United States looking for stories?
Well, since I got involved with this magazine, and now I've been the editor of it for about 20 years,
And the name of that magazine is,
Sweden and America,
okay,
and it's published in one Swedish and one English version. They're identical, but in different languages.
okay.
Of course, I've spent quite a bit of time in Minnesota, the upper Midwest, which is heavily
Where all the
Swedish.
Swedes live.
Yeah, most of them. So, yeah. And of course, I've been to Wilmington, Delaware, where the really first Swedes came in 1638.
That's ancient history.
That's ancient history for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I've been to California, to the Swedish settlement or small Swedish town Kingsburg, and Kansas Lindsborg.
Ledsburg's famous Swedish community,
Yeah,
yes.
Little Sweden, USA. And all of these places, they have one thing in common. There are so many interesting people living there, so many interesting things to find out and write about and tell our readers about.
Well, I guess I'm getting a little trend here, feeling that you really can get involved with the people and enjoy meeting the people. And that sort of generates generate a story out of that.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
I've seen your work in not only the Sweden and American magazine, but also prior to that, the Bridge magazine. So that's quite a task to keep that program going, especially the work you have to do with it.
It is. But it's fun though. I enjoy every single issue that I work with,
Okay.
and it's not only me. There are quite a few other people involved in it too, and we get articles from people like yourself, people who's been doing genealogy, people who have researched distant relatives and found some interesting people, and so it's like making a newspaper or a magazine, but this is kind of a special niche.
Not too many people do the exact same thing you're doing.
No,
Yeah.
that's right.
You mentioned a number of states within America, but you didn't mention one that I thought was extremely exciting and shocking. This last email I sent to you and discovered you were in Wyoming and even part of Utah. Maybe we're letting the cat out of the bag here for the next issue, but why were you out in Wyoming?
Well, I was actually in Utah to interview a few people for upcoming articles. The first one will be in the next issue in September this year, and the one will be in the December issue. But I also discovered that Green River, Wyoming, it used to be the starting point for many expeditions going down the Green River and Colorado rivers.
And I know a lot of Americans love to float those rivers.
Yeah, they do. And one Swedish American did it once, actually did it twice. First time in 1937.
And what was his name?
Buzz Holmström.
Hellström. Okay, this was in 1937.
Yeah, he had read about John Wesley Powell's expeditions in the 1870s, was it, down the river, and was captivated by it and decided he had to do the same thing.
Cool.
So he built his own boat in his home in Oregon and hauled it all the way to Green River, launched it, and a few months later he arrived at Hoover Dam. Then a filmmaker,
All by himself.
all by him in the wood boat.
A flat wooden rowing boat.
Yeah.
Wow.
So next year, a filmmaker heard about this adventure of his.
1938.
Yeah.
He heard about it.
Yeah. And he asked him, can you do it again? So he did. And this filmmaker, Amos Berg, had a team in a couple of boats going with him and made a film about this achievement, really. So there will be an article about Buzz Holmström in a future issue of Sweden and America.
I just happen to think there's another famous Buzz,
Yeah,
Buzz Aldrin.
yeah. He didn't go on water, though. He went
Right.
another way.
That's a really, really interesting story about floating the Green River and the Colorado River. That, and in 1937, that must have been quite an experience.
It must have been. And, you know, Buzz Holmström, you can't get through all the rapids that he went through. Can't be done again.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Tommy. I really appreciate your time today. We're having a good time in Karlstad, and it's really neat meeting you here in person in your own environment here in Sweden.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.